Let's keep building our app by adding this TabBar view, okay? And as you can see on this TabBar view, we have two items, okay? We have this profile and we have this stats, okay? And when we select something, you notice that we change the background color and we also have this smooth animation, okay? And also this TabBar view is scrollable just in case you have like multiple items, okay? And even though we only have two items here, okay, I think it's cooler when it's scrollable, okay? So in this video, we'll see step by step how we can accomplish this result, okay? Okay, let's go back to our code. And as we said, here instead of this text, okay, what we want this view, okay? So let's go ahead and come on this views folder. And what we want to do, we want to create a new group. And yeah, we will call this group settings. And inside this settings group, what we want to do, we want to create a new file. And it's gonna to be a SwiftUI view. And for the name, let's call it settings view. We can hit on create. And now inside this settings view, what we want to do, we want to create, as we said, we want to create this TabBar view, okay? But before we can do so, what we can do, we can simply copy this and come back on this home view. And here, instead of this text, what we want this settings view, okay? And normally everything should be working. And as you can see, we have this hello world. And to show you that this is working, we can say hello world from settings. And if we go back to the home view, normally everything is supposed to work. And as you can see, hello world from settings view, okay? So this is perfect, everything is working. So now let's go to our settings view. And as we said, we want to create a TabBar view, okay? So let's go ahead and remove this text. And the first thing we want to do, we want to create a Z stack. And inside this Z stack, what we want a tab view, okay? And we also want a TabBar view. So basically a tab view is the content, okay? So this is the tab view. So for example, here, this image profile and also this settings and everything, this is the tab view, okay? And the TabBar view is what we have here, okay? So let's go ahead, and for this tab view, what we want to do, we want to come here and actually create a tab view. And we want to select this one, the one with selection and content, okay? So let's go ahead and select this. And yeah, for the selection, we actually need a way to save a selection, okay? So let's come here and we can create a state variable. And let's call it selected index. And by default, we will initialize this to 0, okay? So yeah, we can copy this selected index, and instead of this constant, what we want to do, we want to actually provide a selected index. Okay, perfect, and everything should be working, okay? So here now, what we want to do for this tab content one, what we want, as we saw here, what we want this profile. So we can replace this tab content one by profile. And here we don't need this tab item, so we can remove this and simply keep this tag. And for this one, what we want is this stats, so we can remove this and simply replace it by stats. And we want to do the same thing, we don't want this on tab item, so we can remove it and leave it like this, okay? And for us, our first tag will be 0, okay? And the second one will be 1, okay? So now that we have this tab view, the next thing we want to do, we want to create this TabBar view, okay? But before we can jump into this TabBar view, I really don't like this content, okay? So what I'm gonna to do, I'm simply gonna to recreate this. So here is gonna to be tab view, and we want to copy this and put it here. And yeah, and simply like this bracket, okay? So we can copy this or cut it and put it here, okay? And normally everything is still supposed to work, okay? And because this is on 0, so tag 0, so that's the reason why we see this profile. And if we change this to 1, normally we are supposed to see this stats, okay? So everything is working perfectly, okay? So now let's move to this TabBar view, okay? And in order for us to move to this TabBar view, what I want to do, I actually want to separate this code, okay? Because keep in mind that we want our code to be clean, okay? So that's the reason why here we won't add this logic here, okay? But instead we will come down here and we create a new script and we call it TabBar view. And of course we need a body because this is supposed to return a view. And this is where we will actually create a TabBar view, okay? So here, let's simply add this TabBar or TabBar view, okay? And now what we want to do, we simply want to copy this and paste it here. And as you can see, we have this TabBar view, okay? So let's go ahead and build this TabBar view. Well, the first thing we need to do, we need to pass what we want, okay, inside this TabBar view, okay? And for us, we need two things, okay, or we need two items, okay? We need this profile and we also need this stats, okay? So here, after this selected index, what we want to do, we want to come here and create our TabBar items. And it's gonna to be an array. And here, what we want, as we said, the first thing we want this profile. And the next thing we want this stats. Okay, perfect. And now we want to specify that every time we create this TabBar view, we need to pass our TabBar items, okay? Which makes sense, okay? We cannot have a TabBar view if we don't have the TabBar items, okay? So here, it's gonna to be TabBar items. And it's gonna to be an array of string. And now normally we are supposed to have an error. So let's see, okay, here we are missing these parameters. So if we simply come here and copy this and we can paste it here, okay, normally everything is supposed to still be working, okay, but now we have our TabBar items inside this TabBar view, okay, so now we can actually start creating a TabBar view, okay. So here, instead of this text, what we don't want this text, okay, what we want, as we said, we want it to be scrollable, okay, so we will start it by adding a scroll view. So let's go ahead and add our scroll view. And here we want it to be scrollable on the horizontal axis, okay? So here, that's the reason why we add this horizontal, okay? So now what we want to add the content, okay, or the body of this scroll view, okay? And inside this scroll view, what we need an edge stack, okay? So here, edge stack. And inside this edge stack, what we want to do, we want to loop through all of our items, okay? So here, what we need to do, we need to copy this. And what we can do, we can say that, okay, for each element of these TabBar items, what we want to add our text now, okay? And here for the title of our text, what we simply want to copy this TabBar items, okay? And we want to get the index, okay? So here what we are saying is we are passing this array, okay? And as we know, we have these two items inside this array, okay? And what we are saying is for each element of our array, okay, we want to create a text, okay? And for this text, for the title, we actually want to get the array and this index, okay? So for example, for index 0, we will have this profile, okay? And for index 1, we will have this, okay? So that's the reason why we have this, okay? And as you can see, we have this profile and we have this stats, okay? And of course, if you add more elements, you will be able to see all of your elements here, okay? So now let's go ahead and style this, because as you can see, we have a lot of things to do in order for our TabBar view to look exactly as our finished app, okay? So let's go ahead and keep on styling this text. So the first thing we want to do, we want to add a font. We also want to add a padding, and we want our padding to be on both on this horizontal and also the vertical axis. We also want to add the background color. And here for background color, as you can see, here we have this capsule, okay? So here for background color, what we want to do, we want to add our capsule. And now on this capsule, as you can see, we have this, okay, which is looking good. And on this capsule, what we want to do, we want to change the foreground color, okay. And here for foreground color, as you can see, our foreground color is our accent color, okay. If you guys remember, we created this accent color, okay, this my accent color. So this is the color we want to use. So if we go back to our settings view, here for our foreground color, as we said, we simply want to call this color. And for the name of our accent color, we simply want to provide this my accent color. Okay, perfect. It's looking good. Now what we want to do, we want to actually style this scroll view, okay. So what we want on this scroll view, we need to add the padding. We also want to change our background color. And as you can see, we are able to clearly see a scroll view, okay. And as you can see, we have a scroll view here. Now the next thing we want to do, we want to change the corner radius. So corner radius, and we want to specify it to 25, okay. And the next thing we want to add a frame, okay. So that frame, and here for our frame, what we want the max width of 200. And as you can see, now it's looking good, okay. And now what we want to add this shadow, because here if you pay attention on the finish app, you have this nice shadow, okay. So here let's add our shadow. So here is going to be shadow. And for the color we want here is the color gray. And we want this color with an opacity of 0.5. And we also want to specify the radius. So for radius, it's going to be of 5. And here on the x-axis, we want it to be 0. And for the y-axis, we want it to be 5, okay? And as you can see, we have this nice and beautiful shadow, okay? And here, the last thing we can add, we can simply add our padding, another padding. And you can see that our app is getting close to our finished app, okay? Now I want us to fix something, because as you can see on the finished app, our TabBar view is at the top, okay? So what we want to do, we want to come here on this Z stack, and what we want to do, we want to add an alignment. And for this alignment, we want to specify that we want it to be at the top. And normally this is supposed to push this to the top. And oops, here we have a typo, so it's alignment, okay. And as you can see now, this is at the top, okay, and it's getting close to a finish up, okay. Now the next thing we want to do, we want to be able to select something, okay, because as you can see on the finish up, when we select something, when we select an item, okay, first of all we have this nice animation, okay. And also you can see that the background color will change, okay. If this is selected, we have this background color, and if it's not selected, we don't have anything as a background color, okay. And you can also see that the color of the item itself will change, okay. When we select something, we want this white color, okay, but when it's not selected, we want this black color, okay. So how can we achieve this? Well, in order to achieve this, first of all, we need a way inside this TabBar view. We need a way to know exactly what is selected, okay? Because right now, we are kind of blind when we are inside this TabBar view, because we don't know this TabBar, this selected index, okay? And this selected index will notify us when an item is selected or not, okay? So the first thing we want to do, we want to create a bounding variable. And here we will call it, we can simply copy this, okay, selected index. And we want to keep the same name, okay. And for the type, it's going to be of type integer, okay. And now we have this error because now we need to provide this selected index, okay. And as you can see, it's a bounding variable, okay. So yeah, simply have to pass this state variable, this selected index, okay. And in case you don't know what is a bounding variable, well, a bounding variable is simply something which is bound to the parent view, okay. Because here, what we want to do, we want to know exactly when this selected index changes. Okay, so when this change, what we want to do, we want to, like for example, when we select something, we want to change the background color. Okay, and we also want to change the color of this profile. Okay, so that's the reason why we have this bounding variable. Okay, so with that said, now let's focus on one thing. So let's focus on this background. Okay, so when we select something, we want a background, and when an item is not selected, we want to remove the background. Okay, okay, let's go where we have our background. Okay, because here this is the place where we define our background. Okay, and as we said, we want this to be bound to this selected index. Okay, so yeah, what we can do, we can simply copy this, and yeah, for this foreground style, what we want to say is, yeah, for the color, we want this color to be based on this selected index. Okay, so if this selected index is equal to the current index, okay, so if this is equal to the current index, okay, that means this item has been selected. Okay, and if this item is selected, the color we want is this color. Okay, this my accent color. Let me toggle this so that you guys can see better. So yeah, as we said, if the selected index is this index, the color we want is this one. Okay, so we can put this up here. But if this is not selected, the color we don't want anything, so we want this clear. Okay, so let me explain it again. So let's say, for example, that here we as you can see, we have this profile as the selected item. Okay, and how do we know that this is selected? Simply because for this selected index, the default value is 0. Okay, so this 0, okay, correspond to the selected index. Okay, and inside this tabbar items, the 0 items is this profile. Okay, so that's the reason why this profile is selected. Okay, so what we are saying is, yeah, don't forget that we are inside this for each. Okay, so for each, inside this for each, if the selected index equal to this index, in our case 0, so if 0 for the first item, if 0 is equal to 0, and as you can see 0 is equal to 0, so we have this color. Okay, but now that when we move to this, the index will be 1, so yeah, we will have false because this selected index will be 0 and this index will be 1. Okay, so we will get this. Okay, so this clear, and this clear simply means that we don't want any color. Okay, now that we know that this is working, the next thing we want to do, we also want to change the color of the text itself. So what we can do, we can come here, and what we want to do, we want to add a foreground style, and the logic we want the same logic, so we can even copy this. And yeah, for our color, what we want to say, we want to say that, okay, if this is the selected index, the color we want is the white color. Okay, but if this is not selected, the color we want is this black color. Okay, and normally, as you can see, when we select something, this is supposed to turn white. Okay, and when it's not selected, this is supposed to stay black. Okay, now that this is working, we also want a way, okay, to click on this. Okay, because right now we are not able to select anything. Okay, so let's go ahead and make it clickable. So what we want to do, we want to come here and we want to add this on tab gesture. And here inside this on tab gesture, what we want to do, we simply want to call this selected index. Okay, and we want to pass the index. Okay, so here if I tap on this, the index will be 1. Okay, and I will pass this 1 to this selected index. Okay, and now that this selected index change, it will also change the background and also the color of this start. Okay, so let's give it a try, and if we tap on this, and as you can see, it changes. Okay, and also notice that this is also changing. Okay, simply because this is a bounding variable. Okay, so when we change this, it will also change this state. Okay, so, and as you can see, everything is working perfectly. Okay, except for one thing. As you can see here, it's a little bit rough. Okay, so what I like to do, I usually like to add an animation. So here we call this with animation, and the animation we want is this is in and out. And now inside this with animation, what we want to do, we simply want to cut this and put it inside this with animation, okay? And everything is supposed to be working the same, except for the fact that now, if you pay attention, when we change this, we have this nice animation, okay? And I think this looks more professional, okay, than simply have it like to change without any animation, okay? Now that this is working, what we want to do, we also want to add an animation on this guy, okay? So here on this tab view, what we want to do, we want to add this animation, okay? And the animation we still want this is in out. And here for the value, we want to bound this to this selected index, okay? So every time that this selected index changes, what we want to do, we want to add this animation, okay? So this is simply to add an animation to this guy, okay? Because we added to this, but we also need to add to this body, okay? So if you notice, we have a smooth animation, and I know you cannot really see it, but we have this animation, okay? Just trust me on that, okay? So now let's go on this home view and let's see how it looks like. So if we call this and we tap on this, as you can see, everything seems to be working perfectly, okay? So now, before wrapping up with this video, the last thing we want to add before this animation, what we want to add this on tab view style. And here for this style, what we want to provide, we want to call this page tab view style, okay? And with this, let's go ahead and test this up again. So if we tap on this and we select something, as you can see, everything is working fine, okay? And now we are able to scroll this. And I didn't say it, but this style, okay, this style that we just added, okay, is because we want to make it scrollable, okay? And of course, you don't have to make it scrollable, but I think it looks more professional, okay? And it looks better when it's scrollable, okay? So that's the reason why we added this tab view style, okay? So I think that's it for this video, okay? And in the next video, we will start working on this profile view, okay? Because as you can see, what we want this profile image, and we also want these settings, okay? And then we can focus on this stats view, okay? So I hope you have enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.